This conference will now be recorded.
Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't think we have any amendments, do we, Brian?
Not that I know of.
Okay, so I just need adoption of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 3-0-0. Review the minutes from June 2nd regular meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the June 2nd minutes.
Second.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 3-0-0. We'll open the public comments portion of the meeting. Individuals may address the city council about any items of concern. Speakers must state their name.
It's accounts payable.
Oh, good call. Accounts payable, Durham. Getting all excited.
It's okay. It's not a very exciting accounts payable. I did want to, so we have a 77468 2021 rear bumper. Scott, did you back into something? Was it you? Okay, I did. That was just for funny.
No, it wasn't.
Otherwise, let's see. Get some just general engineering, some uniforms. Otherwise, it's pretty small. Is there anything I should highlight, Kim?
No, pretty low accounts payable.
Yeah, and
I have one question. I think it's probably for the chief. 77506 Morgan Sawyer, tobacco compliance check. Is that something, do we pay her or this person to do that? Is that what that is?
Correct.
Okay.
And these particular checks were the Congratulate Educate, so they were funded by the state.
Okay.
So those funds are kind of in and out.
Perfect.
we passed.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Oh, good,
Good.
good. So if no one has any other questions, I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable in the amount of $59,561.60.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 3-0-0. Thanks, Sarah. Now we'll start with the public comments portion. Individuals may address the city council about any item concerned. Speakers must state their name and limit the remarks to 5 minutes. Any public comments? I will close public comments portion and we will jump to new business. 8A, Goodhue County GIS user group presentation. How are you?
Good evening, nice to meet you. My name is Amanda. I'm the Land Use Management Director, County Surveyor, County Recorder, and Assistant County Administrator. Alan is one of our GIS staff at the county. And we're here to talk to you about our users group. It's been in existence since 2007. A number of the cities are also members. If you go to some of the city county meetings, you can talk to some of the other city members and how we work for them. But basically what we want to do is to show you some of the benefits. The reason we started this back in 2007 really is because GIS was starting up and a lot of the cities had a lot of staff that had been at the city for a long time, and especially the utilities, it was all in their head. And, oh yeah, I remember where that curb stop is. And so they would leave or whatever, and then the plans weren't always up to date and everything because they remembered it. So This was a really good benefit for the cities. They have an internal website that's just accessed by a password through the city people, and they can see where all the utilities are. We work with each one of the cities, obviously, just like you have your own city engineer, and we get the data from them, and we put it in the database, so at any time you can go in there and check to see where the water lines are, where the sewer lines are, any other kind of information you wanted. That's really one of the biggest advantages for the cities, is having that internal website with all the different utilities on it. You can see some of the examples we have with Cannon Falls and Kenyon and Wanamingo. One of the last projects we did in 2020 was to do a first ever on this scale, really, really tight LiDAR data collection, which got us some really good contours and stuff. And part of that too is we had consulted to have them find all the culverts in the county, even in the cities. And so we did an example in the city of Red Wing where they had knowledge of some of them, and then the map brought in all these others that they didn't know they had, or, you know, they didn't have a project there, so they didn't realize that it was there. But that data is available. The other big thing is putting your zoning on there. People always are calling, you know, can I do this? What's it zoned as? So keeping that up to date. The other part is all the recorded plats are linked. That's another thing where I can't remember what a plat I'm in. Where do I go? We do have a lot of historical data, that the photos, which again help you with any kind of land use issues, you know, looking back and saying, oh yeah, that was a dump back in the 30s. Maybe we should do some environmental work there or something. So we do have a lot of that information available. And then another big thing is when you do your public notices and stuff, being able to create a map. You have certain statutes that say you have to notify everybody within 500 feet or whatever of a parcel. You can pick that and it'll generate a parcel report for you. You know, granted, all the parcel information is based on the taxpayer. It might not be the person living there, but it's the person that's getting the tax statement. So those are some of the things that we can help the cities with. These are internal sites. You would have an external site. Alan would come and work with your staff and say, okay, well, what do you want to see? What do you want your citizens to see? We have a city down in, we have Casson down in Dodge County. I'm also the Dodge County surveyor, so we work with them and their GIS too. And they actually attach their Board of Adjustment, the variance and the CUPs to the parcels too. So you can kind of look and say, yeah, that guy came in 5 years ago for this and got rejected or whatever. You know, you'd have the history on there and you'd have documents, recorded documents there. So there's all kinds of options that we can help you with. It's kind of a matter of just sitting down and having Alan go with your staff and say, here's what some of the other cities have. What looks good to you? Is there something else that you'd like to add? We've added TIF districts on there too, because that sometimes is important to the cities, where they can do things and how long is that TIF district for. So there's a lot of different things. We initially, back in 2007, took the population and we wanted to get basically half of a staff person's salary out of this, and that person's really full-time with the city people. And we haven't changed the prices since. We want to be partners. We have shared data. You would have to, basically, your consultants have to get the data from us anyway. This is via front end that you can do a lot of your own research. Your consultants use the research, and then a lot of that they just feed to us, and we put it up on the website for you and maintain that. So I don't know if you had a chance to look at what we have in our county or some of the cities, but if you have any questions, we can leave it at that and see what you think.
I don't. Do you guys have any questions?
I don't. I looked on there for something, I don't know, about a year ago and went, why isn't Zumbrota on this? And I think I mentioned it, but it was, there's so much going on, but yeah, so this is great.
Be happy to have you guys come in and then Alan again would be the one that come down and sit with your staff and start getting data together.
Yeah, all my clients are in Goodhue County. I help the cities in the county, so it's interesting to work with different cities because each city has different needs and wants and wishes. and we are extremely open to that. You know, seriously, whatever you guys want to do, pretty much, you know, we'll find a way to do that. There's a lot of questions that can be answered with, you know, geospatial data. It's really helpful for municipalities.
The other thing we do is every 2 years, we do a countywide flight. And so we'll get area photography. We'll have new photography in the office in August this year. We fly in the spring. And so every 2 years, you'll be getting a new version. And then again, you have the older stuff too. You know, we'll find that we'll go out there and thinking, man, I'm sure there was a house there last year. Now I don't see it. You know, so there's a lot of that stuff that's helpful to look at some of the historical data too. So.
Didn't we already approve that?
Yep, the council had previously approved moving forward to this,
Okay.
and so I contacted them, and this is kind of the next step, a little presentation just to highlight the benefits. From here, we will, I'll have a resolution for the council at the next meeting. Once we have that approved, then we will move forward with working with Alan and
Yes.
and Lisa to see what we need to provide them to get started. One of the most useful for us, and we're really realizing that right now with our community development director not in the office every day. Simple zoning area questions, you know, what's the zone in this area? We have to run back and look at the map on the wall.
Yeah.
Right.
And if we can pull it right up at our fingertips, that's going to be
And,
wonderful.
right, and, you know, as far as, you know, products, wall maps, just basic, you know, informational maps for citizens, you know, where's the recycle containers, you know, where can I run my ATV in town, things like that. Other cities, you know, put them up on our Facebook page, you know, and it's like, okay, here you go, or the city webpage. So just, you know, it's, you know, little things that help a lot too.
So it is the same thing that you brought up, Dylan, and planning and zoning several months ago, and I know Dylan was a big promoter for that. On that, just because, and I think Mike was too, just locating stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we have
Yeah.
talked about this for several months, so I know Dylan was a big pusher on that.
Yeah,
So-
zoning's important. I remember also when I started with doing some of the zoning stuff, it was like you had to go to the super secret squirrel map to find it, and then you had to look left to make sure that you got it right, you know, but this way, everything's
Yeah.
here, everybody can read it.
Well, I can see it being valuable, like, if I get my variance for my fence, that can be put on my property that I got a variance.
Yeah.
So then you can look back and say, okay, are they compliant on this property? Did they get, you know what I mean? Did they get a, whatever to,
Yep, and whatever you want to put on there, we can, you know, link them, because you would basically record your documents when you do variances and stuff, and then we would have the recorded document linked to it, so.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I have some questions. So as far as what is the process of updating the map online? Is it, for example, the variance or the rezone or any type of development application? Is it something that gets emailed over to you and then the map gets updated at that time?
Correct. It's parcel based, Dylan. So, you know, PIN number type. So if there's a split, you know, in a new PIN number,
Yeah.
You know that before us.
Yeah.
And the communication would be there.
Just an email away type of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My other question is there any way we can attach building permits to addresses?
Are they?
Yeah, I think we can.
Maybe
work
like
that
a,
out.
you know, a
We can-
scan?
Yeah,
Yeah, a PDF
Yeah,
and a link.
because that would be tremendously helpful for the multitude of requests when, you know, especially during transactions, when ownership changes of a home, people ask about what permits were pulled and et cetera, and then we have to go through, get 1,000 paper cuts trying to find it type of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
and we would
because-
work through the process on how you want to see it and how you want to, basically, you're giving us all the data, and we're
Okay,
posting
We'll make
it, get it into a place where
that'd
you can
be
use it.
super nice, yeah.
As well as Public Works.
Yeah.
You know, they have documents and things, you know, construction plans that are, you know, linked to a certain road. You know, that document can be scanned in and there's a link when you click it and it's like up comes that engineering drawing. rather than going through a filing cabinet and looking. There's a lot of very nice items that help a lot.
Any questions? Thanks. We'll look
Thank you very
forward
much. Thank you.
to
Yep.
working with you in the future.
That'd be great. Appreciate it.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks,
Yep,
Have a good
come
day.
in, be in touch.
8B, 2021 City Audit Review. Mr. Mark.
How's everybody doing?
Good, how about you?
Good. Is, oh, what? Somebody can run the doodatter? That's the technical term.
The doodatter?
Yeah. So, another year is rolling around. Isn't it hard to keep going faster and faster? You know, it's amazing the changes, you know, technology and so forth, but, you know, COVID and everything else, we've been forced to adapt to technology. It's basically an interesting year for the city as well. The new bond, 3.120 million, is the first one I've seen in quite a while. I think 2010, if I recall correctly. And that one is actually coming off the books. You've got a $155,000 payment next year and the year after. You don't have a bond payment next year. You've got the interest payment, but you don't have a bond payment until the year after. So it's, you know, it's kind of interesting. In other words, you do have an interest payment of $69,000. And if somebody can't hear me, please let me know. Or if I talk too fast, please let me know. Sometimes I just start talking too fast. I'm sorry, I should. I've been admonished. So basically, that's one of the big things this year is the impact of the new let me go right there. You know, of the city this year. Myself and Jennifer Middlestead, we both got extensive auditing experience, as you know. Is this okay, or what should I do with this? Should I put it in my pocket? Should I sing? A few notes. So basically, you know, Jennifer and I have done this for a long time. I've got over 30 years of experience, and Jennifer has about the same as I do. So we tend to look at things always through the vein of an auditor. Andrew has got about 6 years of experience with our firm, but this is his first governmental audit. Well, he helped last year. So it's interesting for him. It's interesting for him. But in other words, we bring a lot of experience. And we spend a lot of time. There's 2 new GASB pronouncements that are going to impact you in the next 2 years. They're both omnibus type bills. So that means that they just piecemealed a bunch of stuff together. So we'll have to determine what's going to happen in 22 and 23. It's going to be a little bit interesting. I've looked at it some. I don't think there's anything major, which is good. I get tired of their you know, continually changing things. And you know, I always whine about certain things. You know, your financial statements are presented what's called a GASB 34 format, which I think is fairly useless. Kim liked that comment. Well, the thing is, you know, the impact of GASB 34 is, okay, you can change slides if you want. I'm just talking. Okay. The impact of GASB 34 is they wanted to make it look better for business people, except they failed horribly. So, and there's also there's always something. GASB 68, which is displaying the pension information, which once again, I find fairly useless from the standpoint that if para goes down, we got bigger problems. So the staff is very helpful, and they do a really great job of the accounting, you know, of doing the accounting functions. You do your due diligence by doing the accounts payable review. That's really important. That's really critical that you do that. And if the staff wasn't helpful, if they can't keep eye contact with me, there's a problem. And I've had to deal with that before. But once again, I'll say this every time. Well, and first of all, if there was a problem, you'd know it before the meeting here. But basically, you know, the staff do a really good job. They tease me a lot, but they do a good job. You've got a clean opinion. A clean opinion is the highest form of opinion I can do. These financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles on a governmental basis. And that would be my next point, so I'm going to have to talk that one anymore. And once again, I talked about the GASB 34 format. So, okay, go ahead. You've seen this before too. This is some of the work we do. You get to see the result of this, me standing up here and talking to you, but as Brian and Kim and everybody can attest, there's a lot more to it than that. We always look at the accounting system and look what's going on, does it work, are there things that can be improved on. We do a fraud review and a risk assessment. And while my audit is not designed to detect fraud per se, that is not the objective, I take that very seriously. And I have interviews with people who are outside the accounting function just to talk. What's going on? How's it going? So it's not just a numbers game. It's talking to people and getting to know people. I talk to counsel, I talk to Brian, and so forth and so on. Cash investments. I go outside and actually talk to your bankers and confirm with outside agencies your cash investments. So I don't rely on something I get internally. I look at what's out there. And I actually do the same thing with your revenues. I talk to the state of Minnesota, I talk to the county, and I get information directly from them. So these are, once again, some of the things to do. Fixed asset additions are always interesting, especially when we get into the street additions and so forth, trying to account for those. And Kim works very hard on those in accordance with Jennifer in my office as well. Okay? So once again, GASB 34 includes two types of financials. The one I find the most useful and the one I've got coming up is basically the standard fund-based financial. The top level statement is not as useful in my opinion. Once again, they try to get it to squeeze it into a business type format, which they don't do a real good job of. But I find the fund financials the most important. We've got the fund financial statements. On the front page of the fund financials, we've got major funds, which are discretely presented. I have each major fund. So those are the ones that either meet the criteria of a major fund, and there's a layered criteria system for that, or the council decides to discreetly present them as well. And then we've got the non-major fund financial statements, which are all squished in the back in the supplementary information. Okay? See why I can't sit down and why I need this like this? I just can't. I just feel really tied down if I can't move. So this is basically the fund financials. You can see, can everybody see it? And you've got a copy with you as well. But these are the fund level financials. You can see here, these are discretely presented units up to here, and then that's actually the non-major funds. That's just a summary of those. So you can see your total cash, the very top level, is 8.4 million, okay, which is up about 3.8 million compared to last year. That's basically the new street project, the bonding for the new street project, which is actually, right there. Okay, that's your new bond project. So that's the major impact on these financials from a dollar point of view. Okay, basically, once again, this is where you're at as of a point in time. Okay, so this is what it looked like on December 31st. January 2nd, it could be a whole different deal. That's really important to note, because if we start looking at ratio analysis, that is a limitation of ratio analysis, is if you have accounts payable cycle that pays on the 28th, you have a vastly different picture than there may have been on the 30th. Okay. Questions so far? So, and then we talk about the revenue structure. I find this to be a little bit more useful. What is the revenue structure? Where's the revenue coming from? Where do you get your money? As you can see, taxes are a huge part of what it's a little bit less than 50%, but still a major part of where you get your money from. Other than that, we've got the intergovernmental, which is this one right here, and then some licenses and a couple other items. Oh, excuse me. So that's your composition of your revenue, okay, or your income. All righty. Then we go to the next one. So your expenditures, you can see you spend a fair amount on public safety. You can see what your library spends, and then the public works, which is actually right there. So you can see what you spend your money on, which I think is also incredibly important as well. Okay? Can you go to the next one, please? Now this is, in my opinion, this is one of my favorite charts for you folks. I get all this information from the state auditor, okay? Now, this is the 2020 information. Once again, you'll see here that you've got a new bonding bill. You know, you've bonded for over $3 million. That's not going to affect this number for 2 years because of the spending pattern and so forth. So once again, we have to be aware of that. And this year I've added Rochester just for you know, interest. It is somewhat comparable from the standpoint that it's all based on per capita. Everything here is per capita. So you can see right now, Zumbrota collects $529 per person, okay? Well, that's the lowest. Well, I'm sorry, Goodhue's a little bit lower, but you know, that's the lowest. That means you're not taxing your people, your constituents, as much as some of the other cities. Look at Cannon Falls, $907 in property taxes per person, $907. Revenue, total revenue and total expenditure, you can see you've got a little over $1,000 per person incoming, and you're spending about $858,000. But if you look at some of these, look at these. Look at Goodhue. They have an excess of spending over their revenues. And you can see several of these others do as well, or it's fairly close. Rochester is just a little bit over in the revenue, but not significantly. That concerns me a little bit. You know, you've got to be able to have a stable revenue stream and an expenditure stream without really going overboard. Capital outlay, you have the least. You and Cannon Falls are tied at $37 per person. Obviously, that's going to change based on the spending for the Jefferson, but that's where you're at right now. And your debt service is the lowest. So what this tells me, and I've said this before, is you've maintained your roads and your infrastructure, and you haven't had to bond for a lot of it, which I think is incredible. Because if you look at this, for instance, Pine Island has outlay of $577 and debt service of $404. So Pine Island has the largest debt service at $404 per person. That's scary, okay? They're spending a lot of money on capital outlay. So they're doing a lot of infrastructure work. They're doing a lot of work. And they've got a large amount of debt to cover it. Or what? But that means a lot of the resources are going into the, paying the debt service. Now you're going to have that. That's going to kick in 2 years. It goes from your beginning, it's like $135,000, and it goes up to $185,000 by 2042 when the bond is done. So, but once again, this is an incredible amount of information. Now, this is publicly accessible information, so you can get that right from the state auditor and compare actual cities, and it's streamlined. In the olden days, shall we say, I had to wade through a bunch of Excel spreadsheets to get this information, but now they have it fairly concise. Any thoughts on this? All right. Reportable condition, segregation of duties. Once again, you're going to have that every year, okay, because you don't have a sufficient accounting staff to avoid incompatible duties. That's why the accounts payable is so important, because you're acting as part of the internal control structure. It may seem like a lot of work, but it's really super important. So I'm always glad to hear that. And I read every minute, so I see every month what you guys approve. Every minute you guys write, I read. So that's the segregation of duties. Is it a problem? Well, if it was IBM, I'd say yes. because you've got enough people. For you folks, it's just a warning sign to always be critical. If something doesn't smell right, look at it, talk about it, and find out what the problem is. Governance, that means I didn't disagree with Brian. We didn't come to blows this year. It was a little close last year, but no, it's, there were no issues, no accounting disagreements and so forth and so on. That's really important for you to know as well. All right? Questions? And thank you. See, now I think I went over my 2.5 minutes.
You did very well.
But it is such an interesting topic.
I think so.
I do too.
Yeah, thanks for your work, Mark. Thanks for your firm.
Thank
You
you.
guys always do a great job. I know the office staff can handle you most of the time, so. So I appreciate it, and well, thank you. Good work. Any questions for Mark? Bob, second time you've seen one of these, right? So
Thank you.
Sarah and I have seen a couple more, so.
And like I said, questions, let me know, because this is really important. All this information, the actual financial statements themselves, do go to the state auditor. And then Kim and I kind of tremble a little bit if we see something with the state auditor being wrong. But it's all good. But it's really important, and all the numbers actually go into, everything you see goes into the state auditor, and they generate these reports. So they go through the financials with a fine-tooth comb, which is good, And like I said, they keep coming up with new pronouncements. The GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, they keep deciding more things that Kim and I have to do. Perfect. Yes, sir.
So some of those cities that are sort of operating in the red, I guess, they have to borrow against enterprise funds to data?
There's not enough information to tell me how they're doing it. Okay, one of the things I look at, and I put this in, should I put it back on? Okay. I gotta put it back, sorry. Now I gotta push this. Push this. Okay, so basically, I can't tell at this point what they're doing, but one of the things I look for, especially and you see that in your enterprise funds. If you look at your enterprise funds, the water and the sewer, those financial statements are presented the exact same way a non-governmental entity would be presented. And in that, my favorite statement is called the statement of cash flows. And that tells me where the cash come from. Did it come from operating income? Did it come from investing or financing? Operating is obvious. It's what you do. Investing is going to be like buying fixed assets, selling fixed assets, selling CDs, buying CDs. And the third part is financing. And that's basically debt. So that's where I would love to see the entire entity do a cash flow statement. And it's a great tool internally, but I don't have enough information from this to really tell. But as a trend, I really don't like seeing, the revenues smaller than the expenses, although why? We'd have to dig deeper. Are there receivable issues that are a problem? The governmental funds are presented what's called a modified accrual basis. And what that means is if you're going to get it or spend it within 60 days, it's on the books. The enterprise funds are presented on an accrual basis, which means, you know what? I earned the money this year. I'm going to show it on my financials this year. So the accrual basis financials actually give you a little bit better way to to see what's going on, to determine trends and so forth, but that's not how governmental funds are. And I know I didn't answer your question, but did I talk enough to okay. Okay, thank you.
Any questions for Mark?
Well, I've still got my thing here.
Thanks, Mark. Great job again.
Thank you, I really appreciate it.
Probably have to see you again next spring. 8C, Jefferson Amendment.
You gotta approve it.
Oh, sorry, okay. So I need to approve the 2021 city audit.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 3-0-0. Thanks, Mark. 8C, Jefferson Amendment, additional construction testing. Mr. Bill.
Thank you, Mayor. In your packet is an amendment to WH Gas's contract. So when we initiated the Jefferson project, the original requirements were that we would be able to do our city standard testing. That has changed. The DOT is now requiring us to do what are called scheduled materials control or set testing based on DOT standards. We are required as the city to hire as a third-party contractor. So this is actually a pass-through to our contract. So this work previously was, we have a contract with American Engineering and Testing to do this. So this is the delta in the difference. It is actually $20,000, I think $20, but we just rounded it. So this is the delta of the different testing requirements that the city is now being required to do. So we're looking for the city to approve an amendment for the $20,000 for the WHGS contract, but ultimately it's a pass-through for the third-party testing firm.
Is that going to slow down the construction when we can start on this?
Nope, no bearing on timeframe.
Okay, perfect. Any questions for Bill?
Why, Bill, why? No, I don't care.
I don't necessarily agree with this, but we have been told that we do not have a choice. So.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve amendment number 1 to the Jefferson Drive reconstruction project.
Second.
Any further discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 3-0-0. Thanks, Bill, I think. 8D, I assume we have to wait till next council meeting because we don't have a quorum to vote. Am I correct on that, Dylan?
Correct.
Because she can't vote because she has to abstain, so I think 8D, we will wait till next council. Do you want to explain? Do you want to at least get it out there, or should we just?
It's okay.
Okay.
Real quick. So the property owner, I have in my notes, Sarah, at 580 4th Street West submitted an application early last month for a variance to allow a fence in her front yard for her child. Again, he's at the age where he's escaping now. Would you want to maybe tell that story? You say it way better than I do. I tried saying it the first time at Planning Commission, but.
He'll just go and he's really quick. Yesterday went to the neighbors and went in their house and was sitting on their couch. He's just really fast, so we can't, it's very uncomfortable to go outside because I don't know what he's gonna do. And he escaped one day and Greg had to call 911 and he thought it was wonderful. All the cops came to his house. Police car. But, so it's just, he could, a 4-foot fence in the front, he could just jump right over that. So we have to put a tall one. So it's just it's an aluminum coated, black coated fence. So it's see-through, like a wrought iron fence. So just asked if we could get a variance to put one up so he'll stay in the yard.
Yeah, so the variance specifically was to encroach into the 30-foot front yard setback for fencing, which is a fancy way of saying we don't allow fences in front yards generally. But more facts was a public hearing was held June 14th here at City Hall to hear the requests and potentially questions. And then at the last 2 meetings, the Planning Commission discussed the ordinances regarding these variances and the specific request. Also, it was brought up that no letters were received going against it. But stemming from the last meeting, the Planning Commission recommends approval of the variance for an encroachment into the front yard setback for a fence at 584th Street West. And then we can motion at a later time, or.
Yeah, we'll just vote on that next council because Sarah has abstained, so we'll skip that until next council. Thanks, Dylan, for the info. 8E, revised DFA discharge permit. I think it's Bill again.
Yeah, maybe Brian and I will tag team this, but in your packet there, Brian's memo, there's kind of a longer description with a little bit of the background, but in essence, what's happening is DFA, with the beginning of their new plant expansion, they did commission a new wastewater treatment facility that went online approximately at the end of the year, coincide with their new permit for this year. They have not been able to meet their limits for total dissolved solids. Now, what we're talking about tonight is not necessarily a compliance issue, so we're not in danger of not meeting our permit with this issue. This is an equity issue, meaning a fairness. Are they being charged what they're contributing to the city? And by not meeting their limit, they're actually receiving penalties. And prior to this, we had a provision in the permit where they just paid a flat monthly fee to account for their level of total dissolved solids. So through numerous discussions with DFA, we are recommending to go back to that model. Now, previously, prior to this, the previous agreements had a $3,500 per month charge. That was what we call the base charge. So now what we've done is we've recomputed what they're discharging, and we feel this number now to be fair for both parties is $10,000 per month. So they will have a $10,000 per month base charge in addition then to their user charges, which is based on their volume and their waste strength. So what we're recommending is basically reinstating the base charge to $10,000. That's really the only change in the permit, other than we would take the penalty provision out for not meeting the same standard. Okay, so questions. It's hard to articulate that hopefully concisely. So
they're still going to get charged. So they're not just paying $10,000 and then they can just discharge whatever they want.
That's correct.
They will get charged for over what their number is.
That's correct. So they'll get $10,000 added to whatever their other calculation would be for how many gallons they use and the strength of their waste.
Okay.
Correct.
So I don't want to go back to when they didn't care and just dumped whatever they wanted to.
Correct.
Okay.
So basically what's happening is you're putting a $10,000 fee on per month, but you're eliminating the penalty per occurrence or per?
Per occurrence, that's correct. Yep.
How does that, dollar-wise, how does that change from just like the first 6 months of the year?
For example, and I think it's pretty consistent for the first for the first 6 months of the year, or actually they've been billed for the first 5 right now. So the first 5 months of the year, they've been, the TDS, they've pretty much been violating it every day and violating their 3-test average. So basically they've been paying anywhere from, I think the new bill I just sent out today was $85,000 for the month and up to about $92,000, I believe they've been paying per month. Overall, there's been a pretty significant number of penalties. They've gotten some of their things in order, more with flow and things like that.
They were having trouble meeting that minimum limit that I don't know if you remember the permit, but we had the 100 milligrams per liter. We set that as a minimum. So they were adding waste back into their flow after that was treated to try to get their BODs up. Otherwise, that was killing our bugs at the plant. So that's why we'd set the minimum. And I think and now they've got those bugs worked out of that. So they're all right on their minimums now on the BODs. So.
Okay.
And both parties are aware and they're all on agreement on this, correct? That's what I meant. On the $10,000 fine, DFA knows about it, right?
Yes.
Yes. And that's what we were talking about.
Yep.
Like a 30-day review or something, or is it they consent to it, you don't care about that? I think it's also.
They consent to it, so we don't care.
So
Harry Johnson, the plant manager,
Oh.
about this, and he's okay with that. So kind of the background is, if we wanted them to look at this, under this permit, we wanted them to be diligent in trying to meet this requirement, and we're satisfied that they brought in a couple different engineers, and they have been working on this. They're just not able to get to where we asked them to be. So the huge penalties that they were paying, they followed through with what we needed them to do as far as looking at it and how they could fix it or meet the parameters. Ultimately, we came to this number based on cost to treat that. Is that a fair way to say it, Bill?
Yeah, and I think ultimately maybe it would be they conceded they can't. Why is it taking this long? Because they thought they could do things to maybe meet this limit. They've now conceded they will not be able to. So there's some hard questions we had with them. Why didn't you design your plant for this? Things like that. So
say they paid $85,000. Now with this new fee, what will that look like now?
Just 10.
It'll be 10 instead of
Just
85.
okay.
We don't.
And why are we doing that? I'm just confused. I mean.
Why would we continue with the penalties, you mean?
I'm going to try to word this carefully. If we were ever contested on that, we have to prove certain things regarding how much it's costing us. So we thought it was better to negotiate an amount that was reasonable for both parties. I'm trying to be vague, but not too vague, Sarah.
Okay.
Put in other words, if we went back to getting sued, we would have to settle and compromise. You know, they sued the city over a similar issue. Matt, help me out, 8 years ago? Ish.
How do they sue us, or how do they do that if a contract has been written?
There's provisions that would override that, so that's what they did last time. Even though we had an agreement, they did sue the city, because there's still statute that we have to follow.
So this is just my concern. We started overcharging them, or not overcharging them, but, saying, hey, you're wrecking our plant. So if we put this back down to what you're saying is a reasonable thing, who's going to pay for the lines when they wreck them again?
Yeah, this one's a different issue. So this was a distribution of who should pay for what. So meaning it's not a compliance issue, it's not a wrecking it. It is a what proportion of the total solids coming into the plant are they contributing versus the regular citizens? And
So maybe that, just a little easier to, back to domestic strength, correct, Bill?
Right.
So what the city sends out in domestic, I mean, I always say the city side, but maybe it's just a little easier to describe that way, or I don't know. The domestic strength portion of it, they're not paying, we're trying to get them closer to that domestic strength portion.
Under it.
They're right under it.
It's made me more confused. Sorry, I did not understand that.
maybe the answer your question, this is not an issue of some of the issues we had before where they're sending, corrosive things or smelly things down the sewer. This is an issue of, are they paying their proper proportion?
Proper, fair share.
Correct. And if someone
Now they're paying too much?
they're paying a penalty, and statute does allow them, they could come back and ask us to reassess that. That's what the study that Ellers did for us on cost of service. They could come back and force us to look at cost of service and reallocate our funds and redo our penalty system. So in lieu of doing that, this was a compromise that both parties, we think, is fair.
Okay, I'm just not sure it's fair, but I guess I'm going to take your word for it, but I just think going from, if they're having that many penalties and we're just going to go back down to saying, oh, don't do that. And then I'm afraid it's going to go back to what it was, because it's been really smelly in town. I don't know how that corresponds with this, but it's been terribly smelly again. And I'm going, I thought that they fixed all these issues.
That part is unrelated, but there are other penalties in place to deal with those sorts of items.
Right, yep, still penalties for those things issues that we had had in the past.
Part of what they're smelling too is they're still running the old dryer, Sarah.
Oh, okay.
They're commissioning the new dryer, and so it takes time. So Brian and I've sat in quite a few meetings now when they've talked about when they've run that new dryer system with the new scrubber system, they've said now that does eliminate that odor, and that's the powdered cheese smell that you get in town. It's the Parmesan and the Romano. But they're not running that new dryer yet, so I think we're all looking forward to that day when they run that.
It smelled so bad the other day. I thought it was garbage. Yeah.
So my other question is, if we pay a contract that we signed in 6 months ago, if we have to sign and do another contract with them, how do we make this contract that it's worth something? Because right now you're telling me that the contract we signed 6 months ago really isn't worth anything. If they can come back on it and say, well, this is not correct. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'd kind of equate it to contracts in sports. People can always renegotiate contracts.
They can.
Doesn't mean we have to. Doesn't mean we have to renegotiate it.
Don't have to.
We don't have to, but then we could be sued.
Should the contract be correct when we do it?
Let me just say this, so they've done what we asked them to do. They went out and they hired a couple engineers and tried to figure out this TDS issue. And what we're finding out and what they're finding out is they just can't get to the levels that the permit was asking for. We had penalties in there to encourage them to do just what they did. So they've worked with us, and I have to say they've been great to work with. They've been very good, very cooperative. They've done what we've asked them to do. And so we sat down and thought, okay, they're a big player in town. They employ a lot of people as well. The fines were there to encourage them to do what they did, do all the testing, do all the due diligence. They followed through, so we figured, okay, let's see what we can do here. So basically, Bill and his crew did a cost of service, maybe is a word, or cost to treat this excess, and that is the fine amount.
Yeah, in essence,
That is the penalty. No, what do we call that now? The surcharge amount that we came up with.
I'm never going to be able to meet the levels we need.
correct.
Yeah, right.
So in reality, this should have occurred 12 months ago. And this should have been incorporated into the last agreement, but by them, not by us. And this is their failure, and they have 6 months of penalties as a result.
They were eager to enter into an agreement because they didn't have any place to go with their waste otherwise. And they knew the provision was in there, didn't think it was going to be an issue. And then realized that,
still one.
we realized that, whoops, it's a big issue.
Okay. I'm just worried that they're going to go, and I know that they have much better management than they used to have, but it just worries me because we finally got this fixed, and then we go back to that. I don't know.
Sarah, that could still happen, but it's independent of this issue.
Okay.
Yep, this is the non-smelly portion of the discharge.
But it's the corrosive to our, it's not the corrosive part.
Well, not the corrosive part either.
Okay.
This is just all those solids that accumulate.
Okay. So is that, so you're telling me that $10,000 is enough to pay for
Us treating
not just treating it, but for what, it's got to do some damage to the plant, doesn't it?
No, this is actually would be similar to just regular domestic strength waste.
Okay.
Correct.
So you're telling me that will pay for that extra?
Correct.
Okay.
And you agree with that dollar amount, Mike?
They did the calculations on that. Maybe Bill should send those calculations out.
And what I was told, that 10,000 is in the middle of the high, or the low side and the high side. So,
Not that we
yeah, it
looked
was
at
about
for
the
the,
average amount, that an average month's low side would be this, that high side would be that.
Can we keep, this is what I'm going to ask, so I'll vote for it. Can we keep track of that and make sure so next year when we do another run at the contract or whenever it's due, that we know that did pay for it?
we're actually required to do that to
Okay.
test for them, so yes. I'm sorry.
You're asking for this contract to approve this for the next 12 months or for the next 6 months?
This is just for the rest of this permit for the next 6 months.
This in 6 months again?
Yes, correct. And if I'm sorry, one more item, just a note. The agreement that's in your council packet calls for that the penalty for June, there would not be a penalty. So the month of June invoicing would not contain a penalty. So I'm not sure we'll have to discuss that with Kim, so.
I just finished May.
Okay. So starting with the June bill, there would not be a penalty if you decide to approve this.
So it will be 10,000
That's correct.
flat fee versus not whatever.
Correct.
At 7 currently.
Yep.
Okay, I'm taking your word for it. I'm not real excited about it, but I'll make a motion to approve the revised DFA discharge permit.
For 6 more months.
6 more months.
Well, for this permit.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 3-0-0. Thanks, Bill. Resolution 2022-14A, resolution of contract with city official. Brian?
Yes,
He
at the
can't
last,
do this either, because he can't vote.
oh, you can't vote. Oh, yeah. Didn't even think
Good
about
call.
that.
I didn't even think, yeah.
The chief brought it up and it's like, I think you're right.
Yep.
Can't do that one either.
So we will move that one
Table
to
that.
next council.
I do, can I ask one question on this?
Yeah.
You have a date as of today on this, on the affidavit, and it says for service materials and work provided. I haven't done the work yet.
Right.
I didn't know.
Is that okay?
What was gonna happen, so
Okay,
if it needs to be tweaked to correspond with what's actually the plan, we can do that.
okay.
We'll tweak it.
That way I wanted to ask.
July 7th meeting?
Is that what it is? Yeah. Perfect. Good call, Sarah.
I'm like, wait, we can't do that.
I think it can wait that long. We're not doing the work till probably the week after that, so.
Perfect.
I need to have them to paint and stuff first, so.
Sounds good. 8G, Resolution 2022-15, filing vacant council position. Brian?
This one we can do with the people we have here. Yes, we had declared a vacancy 2 meetings ago. We posted it in the paper, put it out on our social media sites, soliciting anybody interested in serving 6 months on the council and being appointed. We had, well, there's actually, there was 4. One person pulled themselves out. One person submitted theirs today, dated the 14th, which was 4 days after the deadline. We had 2 people submit on time and as was requested. We have Mark McConaughey and then Dirk Cedergren. What's your last name probably, but Cedergren. Dirk's with us here tonight in the room. These are the 2 that you can consider for appointment to the council for the next 6 months. And you've got a little bio on there from each one. And it is just a simple majority vote of those in attendance, so.
I know very little of, I know one more than the other, but I don't know any of them.
Yeah, I know both Dirk and Mark, and can't go wrong either way.
I feel like he came.
I would make a motion to add Dirk Cedergren to the council. If that's what we're looking for, right? Yep.
For motion in a second.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, I don't know Derek. I know Mark a little bit better, so I mean, and in my opinion is Mark has been in the community quite a bit longer than Derek, would be my only opposition on that. But you got a motion and.
I don't know either of them, so I can't say other than Dirk came.
Yeah,
I find that nice.
Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
that's, I mean, I would say that would be a bonus on my side too, is that he showed up versus Mark.
And maybe Mark didn't know, I mean, not that anything against
Well,
Mark,
yeah,
but I just
anybody
am
can
saying,
come, so, I
yeah.
mean,
I like what you said here in your last line of your letter too, that you're, just here to help people and not, you don't have an agenda of, my road isn't done, I'm gonna get on the council and get that road done.
It already looks like it's a well-oiled machine.
You do pretty well, yeah. We have a good staff. There can be hairy times and disagreements, but.
When I moved back to the area, I made the decision to move here because of the way the town was run.
Oh.
And I saw I have 12 grandkids, and I saw the park.
There you go.
And they play on that probably twice a month.
Yeah, nice.
Perfect.
That's very awesome.
Great.
I mean, I guess my only question, as long as Derek's here, you kind of know an involvement of being on council, that there's 2 council meetings a month, and then was Chris on the park board? I guess before we do that, would you want to go to switch to park, or were you okay being on the library? I think you're on, right? I mean, I would give you the option, or we can discuss that at a later date.
What else was Chris on? Park board and? Say it again? Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
I
'cause
think
we
you're
put a
right. I
council
think he
member
was
on
ambulance.
Yeah.
I think it was park board and ambulance.
And they don't meet monthly, do they? Quarterly?
Quarterly.
Yeah, so, I mean, that would be a council meeting twice a month, and then the other board that, we need a council member there, so.
Yeah, possibly
And a
work-
couple of work sessions too.
Work sessions every now and then.
My goal was to, I saw a need, and my
Perfect.
goal was, I'm involved in politics, I'm on Steve Graskowski's finance group, so I do his finances for that, and sending out letters. But I could just leave and you guys could talk, because my goal is just to fit in if you guys need somebody. If you feel the other guy's better, go for that. Just do what you guys need to do. I'll go out of here.
Well, I mean, it's a public meeting, so I
Well, we
mean,
were so
so
happy
if
to-
you go out, I mean, you go tune in right now, so I mean, yeah. So I mean, I'm not gonna tell you to leave, I mean, and it's,
No, I didn't think you were.
yeah, so.
But I know, I'll leave, you guys feel comfortable, I'm not gonna tune in, but just let me know when, whatever decision is made up.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thanks for coming in.
Have a good night.
So I don't know, it's a toss-up to me, it doesn't matter either way.
I mean, I'll give him,
I think Rick would be very good.
I mean,
He
he
seems
showed the interest, he
conscientious
was
and-
here,
yeah.
I mean, and it's, I know Mark, because he used to be across the street, and that was about it, a neighbor, I mean.
I guess I haven't met Mark. I've known her for years now.
Okay.
Not real well, but I know of him, I listen to him on occasion with breakfast that I'm associated with, and he speaks very well.
Yeah, he seems to be well spoken and, doesn't matter to me.
We got a motion?
You got a motion,
Got a
okay.
motion.
I'll second it. How about that?
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 3-0-0 to elect Derek for the vacant seat
Okay, I'm
for
gonna
the next 6
look at my dirt.
Dirt. Now, don't mess me up.
Okay.
Dirt.
Like dirt?
Yeah, dirt. Yeah, like zebra? Zebra.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
Trying to help him with this.
Yeah, you got another D-Dog.
Perfect. Reports, Brian.
I just want to mention that we posted the information, or an informational brochure to our website, social media pages, and our GoGov push notification about the Jefferson start date or lack of a start date. Or we're still waiting for word on concrete structures. As soon as Schumacher's knows a delivery date, then they will get going. But should be shortly, we hope.
Yeah, I thought, yeah. Okay,
That's all I have.
perfect, thanks. Dylan?
Yeah, so I have a couple reports, but first I want to comment on that GIS. I think it's going to be a tremendous value. The more you learn about it, the more you like about it too. So just the aspect of, say, building permits. I mean, weekly, remember that one time you came and asked me, and I jokingly said, follow me back here. What year was it? What's the address?
Yeah.
Who knows? Because we go by year and not by address, so it's so hard to find that information. And if what the GIS user group presents is the opportunity to digitize the office, I mean, I'm talking decades of all that paperwork can potentially go on a map and be a click away. So it's seemingly invaluable. But my first report was that today took place the SENA annual meeting. This morning in nearby Pine Island, it was a great day, amazing weather. Brian was able to attend as well. There was presentations that took place. Some of the topics were succession planning, revolving loan funds, and attracting companies. I was also a presenter there. I spoke for about 20 minutes on the topic of housing and developments in Greater Minnesota. So it was good attendance to the venue, seated up to about 150 people, and I believe it was almost full type of thing. Just that top balcony up there was the only one where didn't have people in it. My second report is that over the past few weeks, as many of you may know, that I've received offers for my services, including an offer from the city of Zumbrota. But after a long, long time of thinking and deliberating and consulting, I ended up choosing an offer that would remove me from my current position here as the Community Development Director. My new position, for those of you that know, is going to be the Director of Planning with CETA. And because of the city's collaborations with CETA, with the past few months of us working, trying to get 2 extra days within the department specifically, I will be taking over that role just to establish it on an interim basis until a more permanent solution is or person is found. Other notes I have is until that time, you'll likely hear reports from other city staff, maybe Brian from this department. But by all accounts, this is my last city council meeting in this capacity. We have begun the process these past couple of weeks of trying to fill the position. I've interviewed 2 different candidates. I'll be having meetings next week and the week after trying to establish a process, perhaps getting an interview before the personnel committee to get the position filled, hopefully by July, but sooner than later overall. I also just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for the past almost year and a half of supporting me in this role. I've held this position dearly, and I have much appreciation for all that's been accomplished.
I want to say a few things as well. Thanks, Dylan. I completely forgot this was your last meeting. We're just used to trying to keep you around. But no, I just want to say Dylan did just an outstanding job. He came in asking a lot of good questions, and with not having previous community development directors to bounce those questions off of, I was like, well, Dylan, you know what you need to do, just recreate the community development department. And he went at it, and he's got things humming. So we're I hate to lose him. We're not losing him completely, which is the good news. He's going to be the 2 days mostly remote. I think we can talk him into driving down once in a while as we need him. And it'll help a lot with the transition with a new person coming in. We're going to stick with CETA. And like Dylan said, I asked him to be part of the interview team, and because he knows what Zumbrota needs, how we operate. So he's kind of the first line of interview to bring us the right people to talk to. So I'm confident we'll get somebody in here that'll pick right up where Dylan left off. Well, that's pretty big shoes to fill, but somewhat. They'll still have Dylan to fall back on. So yeah, thank you, Dylan, for the time you were here. Wish it was longer, right, Miranda? But Miranda's been really tough on him since he made his decision. So.
That's what he needs. And I just want to say, just kind of what Brian says, I'm not going to get mushy because I kind of got mushy on Tuesday with Dylan a little bit. So I know he was a big bonus for the city, and I think he's got big goals in life that I think he'll do all right. So I just want to thank you, Dylan, for your time, and I don't think we got rid of you yet, so I appreciate it. Is that it, Dylan?
That's it for me.
Perfect. Miranda?
Mine's not as cool as that, I guess, but we replaced the dead plants out here, so check those out when you leave.
Perfect. Thank you. Matt?
Take it.
Sure. So just on a follow-up on the GIS, I think it's probably a good 10 or more years ago, City Council decided it wasn't worth the money to have the own city-specific site, and they were good with just the general Goodhue County site. But I think there's so many features now that they offer, it makes total sense. Yeah. Then the other thing, Bob was asking about the reason DFA sued last time. I think what happened was Neil and Mayor Bauer were so fed up with the violations back then that they sort of piggybacked on David Drown's prior study and decided to try to impose some greater penalties to get them to comply more. There's a problem back then, if you remember. And so they did that, and DFA thought city was acting arbitrarily, so they sued, and then we settled with them saying, okay, anytime there's a proposed change to the permit, it needs to be supported by a study like Ehlers, And we want, I think it's either 30 days, I think, to review and comment. So that was the agreement. So here on this change, they're already in agreement. So if two parties consent, then just do it. But that's just some background on why they sued last time.
Thanks, Matt. Officer Curtis, filling in for Chief.
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Bill?
Since everybody else is adding on the GIS, I'll add one more comment. And that was when Goodhue County had approached the city, Matt, 10, might have been more years, the city decided to venture out on their own. So they've been tackling GIS over the years. So we have certain functioning aspects that the city council has previously authorized. For example, the water system maps are very good, very accurate. The sewer system hasn't been ever touched. Storm sewers partially, same thing with zoning. And I think this is a very good move, but just so everybody knows, now the real work's beginning. Okay, so there is, and that's actually been part of the challenge for city staff in the past is they will host your data, but you have to give them the data and you have to work on it. So just be aware, there's more time and effort, but it's extremely valuable and it's a good use of city funds in my opinion. So, but there'll be more to come and more work. So. Then lastly, as Brian mentioned, Jefferson, right now, structured delivery date is tentatively in the middle of August. And Schumachers are trying to see if they can get that moved up. So otherwise, we'll keep you guys informed as we know more as well. So thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Bill.
So if it's the middle of August for delivery, would they start a couple weeks before that, removing road, or what? What's the thought?
They're not sure yet. Okay. Part of that, in all honesty, part of that depends upon how the weather is before that, other jobs that get finished up, et cetera.
So they can't even start until August?
Well, they can start, but then they would start and then stop.
Right. But that's what I'm saying, they're opting to wait till August. Wow, okay.
Because they don't have much they can do before structures.
It doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, correct.
I get it, but I'm just saying that's.
I'm still
hoping.
Thank you, Mayor.
Kimberly?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Mr. Olson?
Well, as long as everybody else is talking about GIS, so I think I agree with that 100% too, but previously you guys had, we purchased our own GPS system, it hasn't arrived yet, but our intent is to gather the information ourselves. And I think with having that GPS unit that we can go out as, you know, previously we got it from WHKS. So then, you know, we do things as we got more groups of things to do. Now as we get a new service put in or something, we can go out and put it in ourselves right away. So I think that's going to be a plus for us. And I think just to do, you know, to have the hands-on of going out, putting it in ourselves, and then being able to relay that back to the county is going to be a lot, probably will be beneficial for us anyway. Then I had put on your tables the MPCA pollution control. That was our inspection on June 9th. And I think the big thing, I highlighted a few things, but the big thing on the front page was there were no requirements found to be non-compliant during the inspection. That's always a good thing. Couple things. The overall physical condition of the wastewater treatment component is good. The city has in the last several years, as you guys know, we've invested quite a bit of money out there, and gratefully so. We got the new grit removals building, methane gas piping, sludge pumps, and we've rebuilt and all the other stuff too. Primaries and secondary, or primary and final clarifiers. We have a sump pump ordinance. MPCA was something new that they brought to our attention, is that they have a process that they'd like us to look at to address I&I from individual sewer laterals. I don't think our I&I problem is really big, but it's something we'll just take a look at. After we replace that trunk line, I think that took care of a lot of our I&I problems. Cities submitted 44 DMRs for 22 months. They were completed on time. And if you ask Paul, that's always a big task, is the DMRs. The annual acute toxicity reports submitted and on time. That's always a big thing for the MPCA, on time and complete. Biosolids annual reports for the cropping years of 2021 and 22 were complete and on time and well done and received. And then last thing is they comment on our regular meets with BFA leadership. So that's our only industrial permit that we hold in town. But to review the compliance and pre-treatment agreement requirements. And other than that, so there's always, I mean, they go through a lot. They go through all the reports and everything that Paul and Jeff have out there, plus the physical part of the plant and stuff. So I always tell Paul and Jeff that's great, because when you get that, get this back and there's nothing, no issues with it, it's always good, and they do a good job out there. So that's all I have. Thank you.
I guess the only thing I would just make sure you tell Paul and Jeff, thank you for their hard work, and they do a good job of keeping that plant running. So that's all I got reports. Sarah?
Well, miss you, Dylan. Thank you for doing such a good job.
Thank you.
And that's it.
I just want to say thank you for your service.
Meeting adjourned.
Gonna make it?
Yep, that was-